Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. Welcome to another live here with me, Asia Nasir, founder of Utopian Enterprise Business Solution and nonprofit strategist, along with being a two-time author for my second book, which you can see here. Nonprofit doesn't mean no profit. And as I mentioned before, my consulting firm is called Utopian Enterprise Business Solutions, where my mission is to assist aspiring founders and existing founders to be able to fulfill their missions in real time. So that is what I do each and every week, and every other week. I come here and I do lives just to share some really important information that I think nonprofit founders and executive directors should really, pay attention to help their organization be able to do exactly that, fulfill their missions, be able to be impactful, and to be able to, truly transform the lives, of the people that they're looking to serve. So that is what I do. And here we are, another Monday, here talking about another very important topic. And this topic actually was by popular demand. I've done this live before as it relates to nonprofit board members, but a lot of people was like, I don't want to look through your YouTube, I don't want to look for it. They was like, can you really do another one again? So I was like, sure, I'll do another one. So here I am doing something that is a crucial part, an intricate part of a nonprofit organization being impactful, being sustainable, being successful, and that is understanding the role and responsibilities of the nonprofit board of directors. They are the make or break of your organization. Really, you can have great intentions as a founder, you can have great ideas, you can even have connections and reach and resources and all of that. However, in order for you to see your organization grow, in order for you to stay sustainable, in order for you to be able to function in a way that is impactful, your board of directors is going to play a crucial role in that. So it's not just a matter of filling some seats. It's, who's going to fill those seats and how is that going to impact your organization moving forward? Excuse me. So without further ado, let's just get right into the content. I have four ways in which you can assist in yourself as a founder or as an executive director, to be able to do that. So one of the things, in order for you to know if this live is for you, ask yourself these following questions. Do I feel like a one woman, one man show? Am I doing everything? Am I the only, the only one doing this, even though you quote unquote have board of directors, people sitting on your board, but you feel like you're a one woman, one man show? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself, when it comes to fundraising, it just seems like you're putting it out there, but there's really no passion from those that are sitting on your board. And then the third question I want to ask is, what are your expectations of your board members? And do they understand what those expectations are or what their role and responsibilities are? Like if you were to ask them right now, explain to me what your role and responsibility is as a board member of this organization. Would you get 3 to 5 different answers depending on how many people you have on your board? Would you get different answers? Or would there be a consistency of, this is what my role, this is what my responsibility is, this is how I connect to the mission, this is how I help to fulfill the mission, right? If they cannot articulate that, that means they do not have an understanding of what their role and responsibilities are. And if they don't have an understanding of what their roles and responsibilities are, they're going to have a very difficult time executing what it is that you need for the organization. And it's going to be very frustrating, not only for you, but also for them as well, because they don't know where they fit in. They don't have the connection to their presence and how their presence makes a difference for the organization as a whole and for the community as a whole. So let's get right into how you can assist yourself and your board of directors in understanding what those roles and responsibilities are. So I'm going to share 4 key roles. I mean, there are various roles that nonprofit board members can have, but in order for you to have a strong foundation, and for you to build on, for them to, assist in the other roles that they play. These are the crucial roles that every nonprofit board of directors should know is their responsibility as a board member. So, role or responsibility number one is every board member should know that their primary responsibility is to assist in funding and resource development. So that means they are there to help you secure funding. So a lot of grassroots nonprofits think that, oh, I got my 501c3, we're going to get grants, and that's where grants, the grants is going to fund our programs and services. If you don't know already, let me be the first to tell you that's not true. What your tax exemption status does, it qualifies you now to apply for grants, foundation money, corporate sponsorships, and being able to offer tax deductibility with donations or higher amounts of donations. So yes, it puts you in the door. However, when it comes to grants, in many cases, because you don't have a true case where you're showing the impact that your organization is making, a lot of grants are not probably going to approve you. They're probably not. That first year or two is really tough to get grants, or larger grants, I should say. Community grants, small grants, things like that. Those are much easier to get. However, those larger grants that you need in order to be sustainable, in order for you to, have long-term or longevity, those are going to be a little hard to get in the beginning because they don't see what the results are of your services and the programs that you're offering. So they tend not to invest so much money, or if any money at first, until they see that there's impact being made through your organization. So with that being said, that means you have to look for other ways in which you can raise money for your organization to be able to provide said services and programs and so forth. Your board of directors plays a crucial role in that. They should be looking to secure funding, meaning they should be leveraging their network, making sure that they are talking to people that they know who can make donations, larger donations, maybe people that they know that could assist in some form of fundraising, and things like that. That is what they're supposed to be, opening up the door for you as the founder and executive director to be able to make those introductions, to have those sit downs, to be able to have those type of fundings that's needed. So if you think about it, you're leveraging your network, right? You're leveraging your network for campaigns and for fundraising efforts and so forth. Imagine if you had 3 people, 5 people on your board doing the same thing that you're doing. So if you're raising a certain amount of money for the board, then how much more so are the other ones? If they're leveraging their network, how much more money is coming in? And as we know in nonprofit, the more money you have, the more things that you can do within your organization to truly make your programs and whatever services that you're providing more impactful, more transformational. Those are the results that grant funders are looking for. So now you have something that now you can write on those grant applications to show the impact that your organization is making. But it's that money, that seed money, that donations, those campaigns, those fundraisers and things like that, and their own personal contributions. Those larger, successful nonprofit organizations like your Red Crosses, your St. Jude's, your ASPCAs, those board members they have what's called an annual contribution that each board member has, depending on the size of your organization and the size of their network. They have an annual requirement for each board member to donate either personally or bring in to the organization, aside from fundraising efforts and making introductions and things like that. So one of the primary roles as a nonprofit board, and that you should make known to your board members or potential board members, is that their job is to be able to raise money for the organization. So if you have someone that in talking to them and speaking to them, they, oh, I'm shy, I don't ask people for money, that's probably not going to be a good board member. Plain and simple. They're probably not going to be a good board member. Why? Because they're one of the primary jobs and roles and responsibilities is to secure money. So if you have a problem talking to people, you have a problem engaging people as it relates to asking for money for the sole purpose of fulfilling the mission of the organization, that's probably not a good candidate. Now, I wrote a book, as I mentioned, nonprofit doesn't mean no profit. In the chapter, there's a specific chapter, chapter 3 is about board development. It's about creating a winning board of directors. One of the things is distinguishing the difference between a volunteer and a board member. That's probably one of the things that you want to look at. Maybe the person does have passion for your organization. Maybe they love what it is that you do. But if they don't have that reach, they don't have that connection, they don't have people that they can, leverage as far as their network, or they have limitations, or they have inhibitions in asking for money, that's probably not, as for as much passion as they say they have for the organization, they're probably not a good candidate for board membership. So when you're thinking about asking your friends and asking your family members, ask yourself, do they have the connections? Do they have the network that they can leverage in order to be able to assist in being able to bring in funds for the organization? And if they can't, then maybe you may want to ask them to be a volunteer, so that way they're not losing their passion for the organization, but you as a founder or the executive director of your organization has to be able to distinguish the capability. So those interviewing, that conversation that you're having with potential board members, you just don't fill the seat because someone says they want to be a board member. You have to qualify them and see if they have that ability to bring in funding and to be able to expand your resources through their network. So that is role number 1. Role and responsibility number 2 is, once you're bringing in the money, right? Once the organization is making money, the role and responsibility of every board member should have an understanding that they have a fiduciary responsibility with the money that's coming in for that organization. So what does that mean? That means ensuring that the nonprofit financial portfolio is healthy, that they're approving budgets. They're making sure that these budgets, that this is how much is going towards this program. This is how much is going towards maybe bringing in some type of new software or something that's going to help fulfill the mission. Paying certain people to be able to do certain things as it relates to programs and speaking and things like that. Also, if you get to a point where your organization is making a certain amount of money, are we looking to start having payroll and being able to pay people how much are going to be paid? That's not something that one person should be deciding. That should be a budget. A budget is created for how much are we spending per event? How much are we paying this individual? That's approving budgets. There should be a financial report at your monthly meetings. How much money is coming in, from where, and how much money is going out, and to whom. Right? There should be financial reports that's a fiduciary responsibility. You are receiving money from the public. The public wants to know that you are doing right by that money. Your board of directors is going to play a role in that. They should be ensuring that the funds are being used appropriately and for what it was intended for. So that's, not just bringing in money, but also ensuring that once you receive the money, that it is going towards exactly what it was supposed to go towards in order to further the mission. So that is role and responsibility number 2. The third role is their role is to have or to display strategic leadership. Strategic leadership is not just saying I'm a board member. And this is why I was saying you don't just fill in the seat because someone says they want to be a board. In some cases, and I'm not saying all, but in some cases, their job requires them to do some type of community service, sit on a board or sit on a committee, right? So sometimes it's not necessarily because they have necessarily a passion or that they want to do something. It's because it's a requirement of theirs, right? What you want to make sure is that they are actively contributing to the leadership and the direction of your organization, not just filling a seat. You want them to understand that part of their job is helping to shape the vision. the long-term goals of the organization, right? The sustainability and the impact. So this is where board of directors sit and you have your annual strategic meeting and you determine, is this working? Is this not working? Has this been impactful? Is it not impactful? Do we need to tweak this in some way? Or is this something that is just not going well and we need to have a new way of doing this, or a whole new way of presenting this program or this service that we're doing, right? That is where your board of directors come in, where they are strategic. They are assisting. They're like masterminding at your board meetings and being able to make sure that the mission, that it's strategic, that it's not just a hit and miss and we're just kind of throwing darts hoping that it's going to land. It's like, no, the leadership is helping to be able to lead the organization in a way. And as you know, when volunteers and things like that come under your organization, attitude reflects leadership. So if the leadership is strategic in your organization, they're intentional, they're purposeful, guess what? Anything coming under that is going to have that same mentality, or they know they just don't fit in, right? And people aren't going to stay somewhere where they just don't have that synergy. So if they're really wanting to make an impact in your organization, is all about your board of directors, is all about making decisions that are going to be impactful, sustainable, long term, right? Having longevity and having a vision for what it is that you're doing each and every year, all aligning with your mission. That's the type of people that you want to have on your board. So that's not having yes people on your board. You're going to have people, or you want to have people that are going to be on your board that will challenge something, not to be disruptive, to just be, oppositional to everything, but really challenge, like, is this the best way to do this? And then they have solutions or they have suggestions of how things can be done, to be able to for your organization. So you want people who are strategic in their thinking. You want people who are forward thinkers. You want people who are visionaries on your board, to be able to assist you. So you're looking for people in leadership roles, people who display those type of leadership qualities that have influence in the things that they're doing. Why? Because they have a strategic mind. They have a way of, purposely and intentionally doing things and thinking of how they're going to impact other people. And that's what your nonprofit organization is all about. So that's role and responsibility number 3. And last but not least, it's funny that a lot of people that are going into nonprofit as a nonprofit strategist and as a consultant, I have a lot of people ask me when I mention to them, when they say, I want to start a nonprofit, I want you to help me get my 501c3. Well, there are a few steps that you have to take before getting your 501c3, one of which is creating your bylaws. And I'm always shocked when I have a founder wanting to start a nonprofit and they have no clue what bylaws are. And the reason why is your bylaws is basically your code of conduct. This is a step by step of how we intend to run this nonprofit. How do we intend to run this nonprofit? That's important. If you don't have a blueprint of how you're going to run the organization, who's leading, how do you have any form of leadership, right? So the governance role and responsibility number 4 is to ensure that the bylaws are being upheld, that you are working from a place of ethics. You have ethical standards, that there is a moral compass about your organization. So that is extremely important. Are they adhering to this? If something is not being done and the bylaws say this is how we do it and it's not being done, there are those on your board that are holding everyone accountable. There's no favoritisms here. We are all held by the same bylaws, the same governance, the same level of accountability. That is what you want, and you hold each other accountable for that. So as it relates to attendance, that's how we do things. How we remove maybe a board member. What is the process in that? What is the process as it relates to dealing with conflicts of interest? So all of those things should be in your bylaws, and it should be adhered to. So if it is not being adhered to, this is where your board of directors say, hey, look, we need to double back, and we need to get back to basics, and we need to understand, because it avoids chaos, confusion, and you being at a crossroad where you're at odds with your leadership team and the mission is not being fulfilled because you're too busy dealing with things and not being able to move forward. You're too busy debating about things that shouldn't be debated about because it's already discussed and it's already written in your bylaws of how this organization is going to move. So it's really important that your board of directors understand these roles. Now, obviously, there's other roles, and that's for another time. As I mentioned before, as a consultant, I actually do training, one-on-one trainings, whether virtual or face-to-face. I do one-on-one trainings and really go into depths of the roles and how it connects. So I just mentioned 4 very powerful roles and responsibilities of a board members. And if you don't have this, everything else that goes along with board of directors, you're not, as far as attendance and things like that, those things are not going to be adhered to because they don't understand their role and the impact that they have within the organization. They don't understand that their conduct, their intentional or strategic leadership, their fiduciary responsibility, the fact that their role is to bring in funding. If they don't understand these things, everything else really doesn't matter because your organization is already behind the 8 ball. It really is. It's behind the 8 ball. They don't understand how this organization is being handled, the code of conduct, the governance of it. How can we hold each other accountable when we don't even know what bylaws are? We're not adhering to bylaws. We've never even seen the bylaws, things like that. Your organization is going to struggle. It's going to have a hard time. So if you are an existing nonprofit board of, nonprofit organization and you're struggling, you may want to take a look at even just the 4 and ask yourself, where are we short? Is it one of these things, 2 of these things, or is it all of these things? And you have to double back and you have to go back to basics and redo what wasn't done, making sure that everyone understands that this is why we're struggling and we need to get back to this. Also, if you are a startup, if you were having ideas of inviting your best friend and your parents and your family members and things like that, now that you understand their primary role is to bring funding sources and resource development to your organization, ask yourself, are those family members connected in the community? Do they have colleagues? Do they have the network that's going to be able to assist me in moving forward? And if not, excuse me, they're probably not a good candidate for board membership. However, there are other roles and there are other things that they can volunteer for and be a part of, but maybe board development is not one of them. So understanding what the primary roles are is extremely important. And if you're like, well, we have a really short budget, we really can't afford to have training quite yet, I did something, as I mentioned before, I wrote a book for organizations, grassroots nonprofits that really are short on budget, but need the guidance. So as I mentioned before, I wrote a book, Nonprofit Doesn't Mean No Profit, Changing the Portrait of the Humanitarian Grind. You can find this book on Amazon. And as I mentioned before in chapter 3 is all about board development. That whole chapter is dedicated to exactly what we're talking about right here. So Chapter 3 goes in depth and it has exercises for you to write down and really get to the nitty gritty of what your expectations are. What are you looking for in board membership? What don't you have? What you need to be doing as a leader? What you should be looking for in a board member? It's all here. It is all here. So you can get this on Amazon. I'm actually going to put the link that if you're interested in purchasing that book on Amazon, you can do so right now and be able to assist. You can even go over it with your board and sit down together and go over this. You as a founder should want to read it first, so that way you can go ahead and have a strategic conversation with your organization and be able to make that suggestion in doing so. So it's saying that I'm having some internet connection. I don't know how because I'm talking to you, but I'm going to try to put that post up again, that link, and hopefully you'll get it. If not, I'll put it in the link after the video downloads. So that is what I wanted to share with you this morning. Those four things, and it was by popular demand that this conversation and this particular topic was asked for. So I wanted to share that with you. Make sure that you're being impactful. Make sure that you're taking this information back to your board of directors, having this as part of your next meeting's itinerary to discuss these things, and maybe having to double back. And remember, if you are looking for someone to train your organization, please reach out to me. This is my email address if you want to set up a training for your nonprofit organization and your board of directors. Here is where you can email me, and I just put it in the link, put it in the chat. You can actually reach out to me, and I can assist you in being able to train your organizations as to what their particular roles are more in depth than what we're talking about right now. So enjoy the rest of your week. Ponder on the things, really meditate on the things that we talked about, and make those necessary changes. And if you're starting, make sure that you're starting off on the right foot and not, cutting corners. You don't want to cut corners when it comes to your organization, the mission, the recipients that are going to be benefiting from your organization. Your board of directors play a huge role. So that is not something you want to cut corners on. Make sure you're doing it right the first time, so that way your organization can continue to flourish. So until our next live, make your organization impactful, and be impactful to anybody that you interact with today. Be intentional about doing something and making a difference in everyone that you interact with. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks for our next live.